May Allah bless and keep you safe, keep you safe. May Allah bless and keep you safe.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. My dear respected viewers of Madani Channel, we once again welcome you in our program called Secrets of Health. In this program, we talk about health benefits and in particular regarding fasting and Ramadan. What are the benefits of fasting, and alhamdulillah, what are health benefits what we attain when we fast for the pleasure of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. So dear viewers of Madani Channel, we have been covering many topics so far we have covered, and today's topic is regarding gut. Yes, it is something related to our digestive system for general understanding, inshaAllah Azza wa Jal. So I hope inshallah you will be with us from start till end to understand about digestion and what is the role of our stomach and intestines. Inshallah Azza wa Jal, further what is gut and what is all about. Inshallah we'll be discussing this, but you have to be with us from start till end to get this knowledge, inshallah Azza wa Jal. But before we proceed towards our main topic, why not make good intentions for the pleasure of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala? We make this intention that inshaAllah Azza wa Jal, we will deliver this program for the pleasure of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. One of the main reasons of this program and main intention of this program is that we can bring some sort of awareness to public, to our Muslim brothers and viewers of Madani Channel. So inshaAllah Azza wa Jal, they can look after their health and well-being of their normal day-to-day lifestyle, inshaAllah Azza wa Jal. So, dear viewers of Madani Channel, you can make this intention that you will listen this information in order to keep yourself healthy. If you are healthy, inshaAllah Azza wa Jal, you can worship well. And inshaAllah Azza wa Jal, if you are with us from start till end, you're going to learn so much today. Let's go towards our honorable guest, Dr. Consultant Khurram Attari, who is practicing in one of the UK's university hospitals, and he is again with us, inshaAllah Azza wa Jal. Without any further delay, let's go towards him. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Dawson, how are you doing?
Alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Jazakallah, once again, thank you so much for coming and giving your precious time in this program, Secrets of Health. So today's topic is, I think, more related to fasting itself, because this is month of Ramadan, alhamdulillah, and viewers of Madani Channel, they must be fasting. So there is a huge relationship between gut, in simple terms, which is stomach or digestion system of our body, with fasting itself. So I hope inshallah this information is going to be very beneficial for the viewers of Madani Channel. As the viewers of Madani Channel would be noticing that the topic which states on our screen, that is fasting and gut. So maybe this word is a bit technical in terms of medical terminology. Would you please define what do you mean by gut, and what is it constitute of?
So gut actually would mean everything starting from our oral cavity. So this is the mouth through which the food, basically the process of digestion starts. Because we know that the moment we put the morsel of food in our mouth, at the same time enzymes are released and they start this process of digestion.
I'm really sorry that mashallah you just started. It has reminded me the beautiful arrangements Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala has created for human being and for us. We normally use spoons, right? And I was reading a research that when we use our hands to eat, so alhamdulillah, as soon as we touch the food, so the receptors of our hands, they put a signal to our mind that this is hot or it is cold. So maybe we will not put a very hot food into our mouth. So this tells us as soon as it goes into mouth, then enzymes, they start working, taste buds start working, then we have to chew it. And there is so much, alhamdulillah, which whatever shall not go inside, that is decided within our the cavity which you're talking about. And subhanallah, So you can also please guide us in this regard, that how Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala has created this digestion system from the very beginning, even from the hand.
That's right. So yes, as you said, mashallah, so we know that there are these signals which, as you said, the brain perceive.
And it's also sunnah to eat from hands.
And sunnah to eat from hands. And so obviously there's a lot of wisdom behind that as well. But even before that, we know that even the smell of the food can actually stimulate.
Whether it should be eaten or not.
Exactly, that's right, absolutely. And so this is how the whole process is aligned. That from the moment we smell the food to then coming into the mouth, how we take it into the mouth, the taste, and then the activation of those taste buds, and then all these enzymes we mentioned, starting from there with chewing, with deglutition and swallowing. And again, the process of swallowing food, this is again a name of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. So we see people with neurodegenerative conditions. And for them, sometimes even swallowing is one of the bigger tasks, to an extent that actually they are unable to swallow. We always do a swallow test in people who have had stroke, because we know there is a risk. So the synchrony, this needs for swallowing, because our food pipe lies behind the windpipe. So our esophagus, which is the food pipe, lies behind trachea, which is the windpipe. And the trachea has to be closed with a membrane, a muscle called epiglottis. And for that food to slip on top of that into our esophagus. And so you can imagine that
what sort of accuracy is required?
Exactly, absolutely. And so we have to synchronize it with our breathing to make sure, and of course people would have noticed that sometimes when it goes the wrong way, suddenly there's cough reflex to try and get it out. So the whole process, how it is designed in its entirety, one can go for hours and hours.
And you can remember Allah Azza wa Jal and His creation, subhanallah, and you say subhanallahi wa bihamdihi, subhanallahi al-azim. MashaAllah. So please carry on. So from the oral cavity into esophagus, so this is the food pipe, which then goes and attaches to stomach. And then from stomach, the food passes into small intestine, which has 3 major parts. And then it goes to the large intestine. So this whole alimentary canal, so this whole tubular structure, starting from our mouth all the way to the bottom, this all constitutes gut. Even the food passes all these initial receptors in the like smell and taste, and you see the oral touch and oral cavity, and if it even goes into the stomach, if it is not accepted, it throws back. That's right, absolutely. It's also a phenomenon. Exactly. So that's again the beauty of esophagus. So we know that even the esophagus is divided into 3 parts. And the lining of the esophagus is different, because the food which comes from outside, that needs different lining to be able to accommodate that food and to avoid the risk of any damage, compared to when the food has already been chewed and turned into a bolus. That would need a different type of inner lining, what we call epithelium, to then try and process it through esophagus into the stomach. And another beautiful thing is that we all would have seen plumbing, and a lot of plumbing would have unidirectional valves. So exactly like that, Allah Ta'ala has created these unidirectional valves in our esophagus. So the food is only allowed to go one way, but it doesn't. So when it comes the other way, then there is usually something wrong. As you mentioned, so it might be either the food is rejected, or there are some conditions which we'll discuss where when we overfill our stomach, or when people have this high acidity due to, again, generally because of overeating or the issues with the food selection. So this is when we get a reflux, and that acid starts coming up, and that's when we then have problems with acidity, with the reflux, with burning behind our chest. So just because we tried to stretch something which was not designed to do that, this body is still actively trying to reject that and only allowing food to go in one direction. Subhanallah. How many favors of Allah we can thank? Subhanallah, there are our body, dear viewers of Madani Channel. If you just focus on our body, each and every minute element, it reminds us the creation of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, and we should do hamd of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, and Subhanallah, we should praise the blessings of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala and Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, and we should always be thankful to the court of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala that we are breathing well, we are digesting well. Alhamdulillah, each and every body is functioning very well. Now, you've just explained about the gut. Now, could you please further explain us that the topic you're going to relate, the gut and the stomach and intestines. So, what is very much related towards the fasting in Ramadan and how it helps us in our digestive system?
So, obviously, we can spend a lot of time talking about alimentary canal because this is, a lot of things are happening in the system. So, but I really wanted to focus on two main areas. One is the stomach, and second is the intestine, particularly the large intestine. And for a couple of reasons. One is that with stomach, there is certainly physically, we know that there is a lot which happens in stomach, and we must look after it. And we will discuss what are the important things there. But also it has a huge spiritual as well as a religious emphasis on what should actually go in our stomach and the etiquettes of eating and not to distress our stomach so much. So it's a very famous hadith of the Holy Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam, the meaning of which is that when one eats, he should divide his appetite into 3 portions. And that all refers to the stomach. So 1/3 is for food, 1/3 is for water, and 1/3 is for air. So a beautiful way of actually dividing our appetite, because we know that stomach is something which can stretch as much as we want, and it can also contract as much as we want. So it depends a lot on how we are filling our stomachs. So we know that, for example, when we are eating, studies suggest that in order to achieve satiety, so when we feel that our stomach is full, takes on average about 20 minutes. So one can imagine that if someone is a fast eater, particularly with fast foods, within 20 minutes, one can put a lot through into our stomach. Or if we took our time, ate slowly, then this would, as soon as 20 minutes or thereabout are over, we would feel full. So irrespective of the amount of food, it is actually dependent on the speed at which we are eating. So if we try and see, wow, the food smells nice and it's nice and warm, and we think, okay, let's indulge, and we have eaten and eaten within 20 minutes, we have eaten which perhaps only we needed 1/3 of that. So the rest is not only just stretching the stomach, but it will also, the knock-on effect will be that it will activate the receptors to try and get all the blood supply diverted towards the stomach to try and help digest all this food. So that is the splanchnic circulation, which will be diverted and get all that.
SubhanAllah. Also, before you move further, SubhanAllah, it reminds me of beautiful teachings of Islam, and the hukama and you call the wise people, they have given us an understanding that you should chew well.
That's right.
You see, in the very start process of digestion, in other words, don't take the teeth work from intestine. So this is very important. So where it is very important for chewing and for digestion, it helps. In other words, if we chew well, it's going to take time for every bite. So if we chew well, that means the 20 minutes time frame what you've told, it will also help us to, eat slowly.
Exactly. So as we've noticed, Amir al-Sunnah Damat Barakatumul Aliyah, so he's written this beautiful book, The Spiritual Lock of Stomach. And in that he's actually given one of the ways of how to achieve this. So this sort of 20 minutes or thereabouts framework. which is that, and again, we sometimes see that when he's shown doing Sahari or Iftar on Madani Channel, that, and again, that's a great opportunity for us to learn. Sometimes I've noticed that if he has a bone, let's say of a chicken or meat, he would spend so much time licking it and trying to clean every last bit of flesh off it, that if you counted, that would perhaps have taken him already 10 minutes to just do that. So what he has done is he's bought time off that 20-minute framework to allow for that satiety to set in.
At the same time, not to waste food.
And not to waste food, exactly. So, because food wastage now is such a huge issue I was reading one statistic that certainly in Western world, nearly a third of consumable food is wasted every year, nearly a third. And some estimates have put it even more than that. Again, that reminds me of the saying of our beloved Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam. And I guess the summary of that is that there is no worse utensil than a stomach to be filled, and the only few morsels of food are enough for a human, exactly, to keep his back straight. So we can imagine that how much more we are putting through our stomachs. And another stark statistic which I read, and I thought this was an eye-opener, really, certainly for me. So currently there is well over 7 billion people who are living on this planet. In 2015, the scientists' estimates suggested that it was the first time in the history of humanity. So since the creation of human being in the history of humanity, was the first year when more people died of overeating than malnourishment. So in the history, it had never happened. More deaths happened because of lack of food. And that was the first year where that balance was tipped. And we can see that all around us: ischemic heart disease, strokes, diabetes, high blood pressure, all of those, all related to the bad etiquettes of eating, the excessive amounts of food, and then all the processed food and the fats, which we have discussed in previous episodes. So all of that is really a testament to the fact that when one digresses from the teachings of our beautiful deen, which is, as we've discussed, is a complete code of life, it guides us in all walks of life. And certainly eating is a part of that. And there is a reason why eating less, certainly less than, whilst you're still hungry, best to leave eating and keep some of that appetite. So all of that is really for our betterment.
No doubt, Dr. MashaAllah, our teachings of Islam are so beautiful that we have been asked eat less, talk less, and sleep less. So in order to achieve less sleeping and less talking, I think the less eating is very much important, because when you are full stomach, then you will talk too much, right? As compared to the person, for example, in mashallah, it is month of Ramadan, and the people, they are fasting Muslims, mashallah, they must have experienced at the time of iftar, when you just close, you don't want to talk to nobody. You want to be quiet and you want to sit down, and you just need to open your fast or break your fast at the time of iftar. So when you are hungry, right, then you will not feel like talking too much, and you will not feel like sleeping too much. So this is all interlinked. Again, the very first step is regarding less eating. So less eating is very much important. So Islam has also emphasized, Sufi Kiram, they have also emphasized on less talking, less eating, and less sleeping, because the more we sleep, the more time we will waste. We have been created for ibadah, not for sleeping, right? And if you just calculate, I think third part of our life that spends in sleeping, right? And then eating is also like a bigger portion of our time which is spent. So the more we spend, we're going to waste time. So the idea is to remain healthy, we need to eat less. So when we eat less, we will sleep less, we can do more ibadah, and if we will talk less, there'll be less problems in our life. That's also understandable.
Absolutely.
What do you
Exactly.
explain?
So stomach, I guess, related to that. So there are obviously several things which we obviously discussed. So one, obviously, we mentioned about satiety. The other harm of overeating, particularly of these wrong types of food, so the fatty, rich food, what that leads to is this condition called gastritis. So very common complaint nowadays, a lot of people would say, I get bloated, I get a lot of unease, especially after eating, or I feel that they wake up in the morning and we feel this acid brash. So this is all of that acid reflux which has happened. Because the beauty of stomach is that this is the only place in the body, certainly in part of the digestive system, which is acidic. So, and the reason is that the pH of that is well below 5.5. So it is a very acidic medium to try and help digest that food which comes in the stomach. But it needs, obviously, the food which is properly chewed, which needs to reach there. And then all the fatty, rich food, what it does is that the stomach is gone crazy. It's trying to digest it somehow because there's so much fat in the food. So it secretes a lot of acid. And especially if we have also this bad habit of eating quite late at night, even outside, so especially outside Ramadan, what that is doing, a stomach needs at least 2 to 3 hours to clear the food. So water takes about 20 minutes to clear. Standard food would take, so vegetables, pulses would take about 90 minutes, so 1.5 hours. But the things which are, so meat, particularly red meat and especially fats, they could take up to 3 hours. So for that length of time, and then all the acid which is trying to churn all this through, which we have inflicted upon ourselves, and then that acid, despite the fact that Allah Ta'ala has given this beautiful sphincter, we call it, so the lower esophageal sphincter, which is basically a ring of muscles, works exactly like a valve. So when we close the tap, the way the mechanism works in closing the tap, that's exactly what it does. But there is so much acid that it somehow breaks that barrier, come up. And the latest research suggests that acid reflux is not just only causing this acid brash and the retrosternal burning and all this discomfort, but it also goes into the lungs, because it comes all the way to the throat and then goes into the trachea and the lungs, and can actually cause inflammation and scarring of the lungs, something we call interstitial lung disease. So nowadays, I do this specialist clinic with my chest medicine colleagues for these people who have interstitial lung diseases. And one of the common questions we would ask is about the health of their stomachs. And do they feel the acid coming up? Do they have reflux? Because we know that that's going to contribute to... So we can see just by not adhering to the principles given by our beloved Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the range of problems, and just between the oral cavity and stomach, all these problems we have created for ourselves, and then we blame it must be the food I've eaten or the restaurant I went to or something else, but completely ignoring that I was the one who was actually filling my stomach with all this unnecessary and unhealthy food. So that's where I feel that that we need to be really careful, and that's where our Deen gives us such a beautiful guidance.
MashaAllah, lots of, as you've just talked about the religious perspective of this filling the stomach, Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi ta'ala alayhi's quote is in front of me: the person who constantly fills his stomach is one whose eyes are constantly filled with sleep. Even if he performs tahajjud, he feels no sweetness in its performance. The link of filling the stomach and then sleeping, and the person who feels more sleep, is there any sort of medical science proves that when you eat and you fill your stomach, then you feel like sleeping? What is the body reaction towards this?
Yeah, absolutely. So we know that if we again overfill our stomach, it distends, and as a result, it needs all this blood circulation to try and help digest. So all the blood which is diverted from the brain and other organs to the splanchnic circulation, which supplies the stomach and intestines. And because the blood is diverted away from the brain, so that's why we feel that our activity level is coming down, our mental sharpness is not the same. We may start feeling fatigue, we may feel that, we want to lie down a bit. So all that elements of freshness, of what was the mental acuity which was required to perform the deeds which we're doing as part of work or whatever, all of those have been put at stake because we haven't again adhered to the principles. And as you said, so then overeating leads to the overindulgence, leads to overeating, the overeating leads to oversleeping, and then the oversleeping would then cause all other problems with the diaries in our lives and whatever it might be.
MashaAllah, not only in offering salah or doing ibadah, you become lazy when you eat too much. At the same time, if you are at workplace and you take lunch, a bit heavy lunch, so you would, or most of us would have experienced that we feel like lazy and we want to have a nap and sleep, and it really affects badly to our work at the time when we are on our workstation, we are working something. So that's very much important that and those, they may have experienced very light lunch, they would feel fresh for the rest of their work. And at the same time, if those brothers of viewers of Madani Channel, they find it hard to get up early in the morning for Salatul Fajr or Tahajjud Salah, it's my advice to eat less and then sleep. Inshallah Azza wa Jal, this will help you to get up for Salatul Fajr easily as compared to when you have full stomach, and other problems you will face in terms of your health, they are separate, but this is also very unfortunate. Because of more eating, you will feel more lazy, and maybe you will be finding it hard for you to get up early in the morning. And also there's another important point which should be addressed, that when we eat more than our carnal desires, they are also motivated. This is also a concept in Islam. If we want to kill our carnal desires, then we should fast. Again, fasting is important, right? There are certain sort of desires of human desires which should be suppressed by fasting. And those bachelors, they are not married yet, so they are suggested by the teachings of Islam that unless you are not married, you should fast. So again, fasting has got its own important role to suppress the desires which are related to our carnal desires. Do you want to comment on this?
Absolutely. So I think again, as I mentioned, so because everything which seems to what we are doing with a modern way of living is that it seems to be against those very simple but beautiful concepts of our deen, of our religion. So when we have overeaten, and that will lead to, as you said, provoking all those desires which should have been suppressed. And that again is because that we somehow feel uninhibited. We feel that, I'm on the top of the world, I can do whatever I want to do. And the serious risk...
Because your basic necessities are done, so then you go for the other things which are not to be done. Because if your basic necessities are not filled, then you will definitely try to fill them first. And finally, because we are talking about the relationship of fasting with our digestion system, mashallah, very well explained, less eating will help us becoming healthy. What more information you would like to give, especially in month of Ramadan and the topic of gut?
So I guess the key point I wanted to make was that the beauty of fasting, especially with this intermittent fasting, is that it is giving an opportunity for the stomach to relax, if we allow it to relax at the times of iftar and sahar. So again, overeating at those points would really at the detriment of losing the essence of fasting, which was really to try and practice ourselves and allow the stomachs, which are under huge pressure nowadays, to have some relaxation. And there is again a lot of evidence that certainly in order to reduce the this feeling of bloatedness, the feeling of swollen stomachs, exactly the feeling of that my the function of my stomach is not right, just by allowing for it to rest, even if it be in the month of Ramadan, we would see the benefits of that within, and certainly as soon as the Ramadan progresses, we'll see the benefits of that.
My dear Islamic brothers, Alhamdulillah, today we have heard a beautiful information regarding digestion, how this whole process works, and what a beautiful creation of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, how well organized and well managed system Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala has created. We should be thankful to Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala upon this ni'mah, and to relax our muscles and our stomach and this digestive system we need to fast. And Alhamdulillah, this month of Ramadan we are fasting, and the rest of the year we should also fast, inshaAllah Azza wa Jal. That's all for today. Inshallah, we'll come back with another beautiful episode with new topic. Until then, keep watching Madani Channel, keep reciting Salat upon Nabi alayhi salatu wassalam.
May Allah bless and keep you safe, keep you safe. May Allah bless and keep you safe.